impermanence, I see it as, as being very foundational. How can you have creation if there is not impermanence? So every aspect of aliveness seems to me to carry with it the temporary nature. So the more I reflected on it, the less I began to think of it in terms of a completion or a finishing or an ending, but as being foundational to beginning, as being at the essence of life as I experience life. I tend to embrace impermanence as a recognition of the reality of aliveness.
As a data archivist, I think about time all the time. Data, bits, sort of come and go, but my job is to keep them alive, keep the evidence of what other people have done. And so it gives us this time perspective. It's all about time. 5 years hence, things might not be able to be seen again that other people work so hard on. The rise and fall of a company, constantly faced with the concept of change and growth and decay.
My initial reaction is a negative one, like change is, oh, that's not good. But then I had to stop and realize there are a lot of changes that happen that are positive. Some kind of a violent encounter, and seeing the lives that are changed, and when someone dies. In that case, if change doesn't happen, that's a bad thing.
Impermanence means change. Change just happens. Over time, everything changes. Without change, I think I wouldn't be doing very well. I don't think anything would have happened without change, and change just happens.
Impermanence to me mostly means a very good thing. It means progress. It means forward moving. Impermanence is like the seed turning into the tree. The tree's not the seed, but it came from it. Just like the fruit is not the tree, although it came from it. The seed and the tree and the fruit are impermanent to me. They're all part of the same cycle, but they're different. I reflect on my life. I think of my childhood, and I think that I wasn't a young man then, and I, in fact, became a young man as a result of my childhood, and that I wasn't the man I am now in my young adulthood. And I'm also, not the old man I'll become. And to me, the idea of impermanence sort of sums up that cycle. It sums up that forward movement, that progression, that momentum.
It's the condition of letting go and being in the habit of letting go, being detached. It's the state of being able to enjoy what is in its passing away without trying to cling to it. A beggar on the side of the road, he has nothing. He puts out his hand and saying, "Give me a dime," and the hand is open to what may be given by life. And somebody passing by drops a quarter in his hand, and immediately the hand closes to possess it, and it becomes a fist. And you could then use the fist to protect what you have possessed. But of course, you can't even use it very well because you are so intent on clinging to it and protecting it. Poverty of spirit now is opening the hand again, having the courage and taking the risk of remaining open, running the risk that the quarter may be taken away from you, but also being in a position where you can receive more. And it's in that position of receptivity and of openness, which is the experience of fullness of reality, and the goodness of reality begins to flow into one, and that's true happiness.
probably the first time my heart broke. First relationship ending. I don't even know that it was so much that I thought it would last forever, but that you don't have to think about it ending till it ends.
You can't really document the inner self of a person. I mean, you can't really photograph me at almost 60 as a 7-year-old, and yet I still am that 7-year-old somewhere inside myself.
It's like FDR said, the only thing that fears is fear itself, and the only thing that's really permanent is probably change. The society is having a hard time keeping up with the change, that just because you have the technology doesn't mean that you have the psychology to deal with it. Our reality, our construct of reality is based on trying to say things are fixed, but on the other hand, they're really not.
The internet, the World Wide Web, where people put things up and take things down, and we're trying to make it last. So we take a snapshot of the web by going to every page, freezing it in time. You can go and look at it over time. You can actually look around the web as if it were 1996 and be able to surf time. We collect about 50 terabytes a month, which is more than all the words in the Library of Congress. It's the evidence of tens of millions of voices. These words in these pages often weren't really meant for the ages. What can we do with all of this? I hope that we start to understand ourselves better. And we start coming up with meta thoughts about where we can go and who we want to be as people, in the big and in the small.
We need to act as if things and people and ideas are permanent, they are true, or they are valuable. You couldn't marry someone unless you thought, he was there to stay. You wouldn't love people if you were always thinking about the fact that they would die or stop loving you. That you have to imagine a person as somehow joined to and part of and constituted by the world that they live in.
We live in a world where we generate waste through just the nature of our economy. The whole consumer economy, invent new things and buy new things and have the next new thing. There's impermanence in that because the thing that you buy, its value doesn't last. You have to have the next new thing. You just have to accumulate more and more and more and more and more. You've got all this stuff accumulated. What do you do with it? You end up throwing it away. Where does that go? It goes in the dump with everything else. The waste that we generate is going to be around for a really, really long time.
You're a spirit being that you came here to learn and to grow. And the spirit doesn't die when you die. The spirit lives on in some form. So that's not impermanent. That essence part of me, that's not something that I feel is fleeting.
impermanence might contribute towards greater peace in the world. But all these conflicts that look so real and so permanent can be muted by just changing the way we look at it.
The more that we surrender into that essential being inside ourselves that is not caught in the permanent, impermanent dichotomy, the more we recognize that in others. It's been said that you can't hate someone whose story you really know. The better we know our own story, even spiraling into that infinite permanence, that metaphysical continuing at the center, the more we know that, I think the more we know that that's true for everyone. It's the same consciousness, the same energy, the same love that is centering all of what seems to have any permanence or impermanence. The more we tune into that, the more we treat anything and anyone from that sense of reverence, of being connected in a sacred way.
Peace happens in an awareness that nothing is real outside of this moment. The only thing that we have is this moment, and it's the only thing that's real. That's where the deepest peace comes, is when you rest into that. Let go of fear. Don't hold on. Quiet your mind, come to the moment.
An awareness of impermanence helps us to take greater care. And to me, that would affect our relation to peace and a desire to resolve things rather than to stay in conflict as if we just stay long enough, somehow we're going to win, instead of that this day is precious, this life is precious, and have a greater commitment to coming up with some resolution now rather than thinking later is going to be here.
The missing piece is a tremendous amount of work that has to be done. Not only is there a lack of something that can be done, there is an abundance of many, many, many things that don't necessarily need to be done. There are many things we can do that just by not doing them, we can produce tremendous joy and happiness and prosperity. That piece is missing.
Well, I don't think the last day is as important as all the days beforehand, right? I mean, it's definitely your day-to-day that matters, and your moment-to-moment, and what you put out. So your last day, your last moment that you get to face your life, I think it's going to be really quick and not very important.
If today was the last day, I would feel sad in a selfish way that I wasn't going to get more days to enjoy my kids, to run on the beach, to pick flowers, to do those things, because I love my life. I feel lucky. I feel lucky to have lived my life. And I feel lucky to have loved the people that I love.
Interacting with my father, who's 88, he's not attached to anything. I'm able to experience him much more like I experienced my son when he was first born.
Life out of death, my practical experience with it is a lot of times with animals. This condor I was talking about, that's his whole gift to the world, is to demonstrate making life out of death. In my own relationship, in my marriage, it feels that way. Every cycle, when your relationships go into a kind of death period, and then you revitalize it and you make life out of it. So I turn to that idea of life coming from death all the time.
our existence with these other beings who are sharing space is finite. This whole life is a play and it's a movie. It doesn't just mean that I'm the, that it's my movie and that, it's for me. It's for all of us.
This body is changeable. It is changing continuously, moment to moment. And world doesn't remain the same. But our soul, it's permanent. And we have to make a balance between the two. Anger, greed, attachment, selfish attitude, our competition with others. All these things are in this impermanent feature of us. The person who has control on his senses, on his impermanent self, then he can become a pure self, and from there he works selflessly. Then we will be in good shape and we will be peaceful.
Whatever your age is, you should always think about this and realize how lucky you are. Appreciate what you have and be thankful. Live like every day as though you were to die tomorrow. Set a good example for everybody. You just try to live life till your fullest and you do your best at that.
The more accepting people can be of others around them, obviously the more peaceful it's going to be. There's room for everybody's ideas. Accept others' ideas as being as valid as their own. Understand that it's not just people and that there's a whole earth and space and, that there's a big grander thing that needs to be taken care of, and that there needs to be some energy put into that. The people need to act for someone other than themselves.
Presence. What do I do with it? We come to life involuntarily. We did not have a choice. And we leave involuntarily. We don't have a choice.
We are all the same, and our differences are pretty superficial. We just need to break down barriers and live more peacefully with one another. People just want love. They want to be loved, and they want love. And if we can just bring down the wall and let that happen, we would be happier.
We're kind of like a grain of sand out there on the beach. I don't have a unique color or a unique size. I'm just one of the rest of the grains of sand.
The golden years are now instead of later. Then people would maybe lead a more peaceful life and just do the things that they always talk about wanting to do later, now.
When you think that you're immortal, when you're younger, there's a certain desire and a certain sort of striving to get somewhere, and so it feels very important, very self-important. There's a lot of ego in it. It's about you and what you can accomplish and what your life's about and how you'll make meaning of it. And with that, I think comes a lot of stress, worrying about failure, worrying what it looks like, worrying how to be judged by other people. Now, at this point in my life, I really embrace impermanence and welcome it. It's a way to, be very present, so be here now in the present. It's a way to sort of take ego out a little bit of your day-to-day life. It's easier to sort of do the things that I care about, that I find meaning from, and I work just as hard, but I'm not attached to them in the same way, and so it just makes the whole sort of living experience that much more real and enjoyable.
This reality of impermanence, the awareness of impermanence, winds up being almost like a torch that comes in and burns off the chaff, burns off the debris, and leaves only that which is truly of value.
It's an inside job.
With others.
Embrace impermanence.
Listen with an open heart.
Accept others' ideas.
Think more broadly. Be a part of things that are bigger.
It becomes much more difficult to think that somebody's an other.
Collectively, we can make it a more peaceful world.
Humility and humbleness. How we approach each day.
Attachments of your mind.
It's not about taking, it's about giving it back. Evolving.
Connection.
Openness.
Music.
To give. Present.
Set a good example for everybody.
Keep on loving.
It's the same consciousness, the same energy, the same love.
The love is what we need. Pass it on.